Now, let's go back for a second to that magic moment many years ago when I invented the straight line. And I was in front of my room of guys, 12, 13 ragtag salespeople, and I gave them that, that great speech that, don't you get it? Every sale's the same. And I went to a board that said, watch, there's an open and there's a close. Now, as you move someone down the straight line, it's goal-oriented communication. You're pushing them from the open to the close. And what I said to them was, if in those first 4 seconds that you speak to someone, the people on the other end of the line don't perceive that you're, number one, sharp as a tack, number two, enthusiastic as hell, 3, an expert in your field, then they will tune out. You're done. Now, in truth, you have 10 or 15 seconds to play catch-a-ball. They could think that you don't really have what it takes in the beginning. But if in those first 4 seconds, 10 seconds after, they don't believe you're sharp, enthusiastic, and expert in your field, very, very difficult to influence. 4 seconds to establish 3 things. And if you don't establish these 3 things with these people on the phone in 4 seconds, you're done. Now, in truth, you have 10 seconds of catch-up ball. But if in those first 4 seconds of a phone call or in person, if you don't establish these 3 things, you cannot influence anybody. Let me tell you exactly what they are. Number 1, if in the first 4 seconds of a call or in person, they don't believe, the prospect doesn't believe that you're, number 1, sharp as a tack. 2, enthusiastic as hell. Enthusiastic as hell. Number 3, an expert in your field. Expert in your field. If in the first 4 seconds of a conversation, they don't believe you're those 3 things, you're done. And again, you have a few seconds, 10 more seconds where you can make up for lost time. But typically, if you're not in that point, you're out of the game. Why? Now here's the deal. Do we want to deal with novices when we do business? When you get a haircut, do you want to deal with a freaking girl who just got a haircutting school? Or you want to deal with a woman who's cutting hair for 20 years? Which one? 20 years. When you go to a doctor, if your appendix needs to be taken out, what do you do? Who just graduated from medical school? Can you take my appendix out? Or do you go to the guy doing it for 30 years? Who do you go to? Okay, when you want to buy a system of telecommunications, who do you want giving you a system? The guy who just started working yesterday or a guy who's doing it for 10 years? Who do you want? You want the expert. We want to do business with experts, not novices. And here's the deal. We, as human beings, judge books by their covers. Our parents told us not to, but they did it, and so do we. We make instant decisions about people. Now, in person, on the phone, it's 4 seconds. In 4 seconds, they'll make that decision. In person, face-to-face, it's 1/24th of a second. Instant. That's it. And I'll tell you how in a second. They judge instantly. They look at you. They pull you apart. They put you back together. They compartmentalize you either as being sharp as a tack, on the ball. Wow, the guy's really enthusiastic, an expert, knows what he's doing. Or they put you in the moron category. And let me tell you something. They don't want to talk to you. Bottom line. If you're thought of as being a dullard, people are just... They put you in that category. You cannot influence anybody. Now, when you're on a phone call, and typically, by the way, most things these days starts off with a phone call. And then ultimately, sometimes we never see our client, but very often it starts with a call, and then we see them afterwards for an in-person appointment. When you're on the phone talking, how do they size? How can they size? If they can't see you, how do they size you up? How? Through what? Boom. Tonality. Tonality. They make a mental image of you based on the way you sound. Understand this. The words, sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and expert in your field, they don't exist in 4 seconds. You can't say, listen, Johnny, I'm sharp as a tack, enthusiastic. They'll say, what the fuck is wrong with you? People think you're crazy. You can't get it across with the words. This has to get across. We say, hey, John, how you doing today? Great. John, reason for it's the word. With benign words, you can get across the fact that you're sharp, on the ball, enthusiastic. It's from tonality. Starts with tonality. I'll write it over here. The first way we do it, number one, tonality. And secondly, body language. We're in person. In terms of tonality, there are 29 tonalities that we have as human beings that we use. 10 of them are core influencing tones. Like, oh shit, I got to learn that. Let me tell you something. Guess what? You're already using them. You already use them. You just don't know it. You're doing it by accident. Who's ever had a time in their life when they told a secret? Raise your hand. Or, see, what do you do when you tell a secret? What do? You whisper. You say, hey, John, listen, the reason for the call, and it's a secret, and it intrigues people. There's mystery behind it. Who's ever had a time in life where they're absolutely certain about something? Raise your hand. Certain, right? What do you say? You say, listen, John, let me just tell you, and you talk certain. Who's had a time where you really, a good friend of yours, something happened and you felt their pain? Who's that? Raise your hand, right? We say, John, I totally understand. Mary, I feel you. You felt empathy. We've all used these tones through our entire life. And when you're influencing, once you understand how powerful they are, in specific points of an oral presentation, you'll be shocked at what will happen. Tonality is the hidden language of influence. There's not that much we can say with our words sometimes without sounding disingenuous. Say to somebody, John, I really, really care about you. In the first 30 seconds, say, what the fuck? You're a liar. You can't say the words don't exist. Now, later on, yes, of course, when you're in business, someone, and you've proved, yes, then it's different. I'm talking in the beginning, in those first few seconds, sharp, enthusiastic, and expert in your field. It's tonality and body language. And this together, these two things, tonality and body language, make up about 90% of human communication. 90% of human communication. Tonality is about 45%. This is 45%. And the words are 10%. That's it, the words. Only 10% of communication. Yet salespeople, salesmen, saleswomen, they spend so much time over their words, laboring on their words, and they're missing 90% of their ability to communicate. 90% is missing. Now, there are two things, in that first few seconds, let's say that first few minutes after that, there's two messages that you must get across to a prospect. And I'll tell you what they are. Number one, the first thing of communication starts off with this: I care. That first thing that must come across, I care, or you care. That's got to come across right away. And just, this idea of well, Jordan, yeah, of course, well, you have a lot of charisma. You have charisma too. She's got charisma. He doesn't have charisma. This idea of charisma, right? It's a load of shit. Charisma is not a gift for just me or him, or every one of you can learn to have massive charisma. You know who is the best at this? Bill Clinton. Bill President, former Clinton? Bill Clinton, for all his faults and failings, right? What do you know about Bill Clinton? He didn't have sex in the White House while he was getting blown, right? Whatever his faults are, right? Bill Clinton had this amazing gift. He could look at you, and in 1 minute, he'd say, how you doing, buddy? Great. And you say, oh my God, he loves me. He feels my pain. He knows it. He cares. He had this ability through body language, his tone of voice. How you doing, Bill? He had Bill Clinton, this amazing gift to be able to get into that unbelievable, he cared about you. You had some commonalities. He's an expert. We call that charisma. Make sense? Yes? I'm telling you, I teach part of what today you're going to learn is how to have charisma. It's really simple. It's not just for me or for him or for her. Charisma is made up of three distinct things. I'll tell you exactly what they are. Number one, charisma is made up of it's the effective use of tonality. It's effective tonality. Learning how to raise your voice, lower your voice, speed up, talk quickly, and then slow down. How to phrase things a certain way. That I care tonality, sympathy, empathy. That's part of charisma. The second element of charisma is the appropriate use of body language. Appropriate body language. Now remember, people who, they be charismatic, uncharismatic, typically they're repulsive, right? And it's not their words, it's usually what? It's like something about their body, they just turn us off. It's this way they stand too close, they move away, they disconnect through body language. So having charisma, I'm going to go through this in detail, both tonality and body language today, how you use this to influence and get into that, all-important rapport, right? So it's effective tonality, appropriate body language, and the third element of charisma is not saying stupid shit. And basically, as a salesperson, sometimes this gets challenging, especially when we get further along in the conversation and we've run out of things to say. And we're still trying to close the deal, so we start saying stupid shit we don't mean to. We haven't done enough preparation. So one of the things we're going to go through in detail this afternoon with the straight line system is how do you get yourself, you never do that. That you always know exactly what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. The three all-important things. What you say, how you say it, and when you say it. Charisma. So this first thing, I care. Once you've established that, you're in really good shape. I care. I'm empathy, sympathy. And we do it through tonality and body language. It's not the words. And the second element of this is something called likability. I'm just like you. I'm just like you. People associate based on our commonalities, not our differences. You would never go and join a club. You say, oh, yeah, I went out and found this really great club. They're nothing like me. They hate the things I love. We dress differently. We think I joined. You would never say, why the fuck would you join that club, right? You go to a club. They do things just like you. There's some common, and you join. Now, this is the tricky part. This is the tricky part because what happens, and these two things really are the cornerstones. Is I care, I'm just like you. They make up this big word that we use all the time. You've heard it before. This big word starts with an R. What's the word? It makes up the beginning of what? Rapport, right? Rapport. The all-important rapport. Just so you know, in my book, this is the single most misunderstood word in the entire English language. What many salespeople think constitutes rapport is often repulsive. It repels people. And I'm going to go through this in intimate detail. But one of the classic mistakes that salespeople make is they walk into an office and they'll see the fish on the wall and say, oh my God, I love fishing. You fish, I fish. And they think that that's what being just like them is all about. Don't talk about the frickin' fish. Everyone else talks about the fish. That's not rapport. If someone starts to ramble about something, you're like, oh, man, me too. I love that too. That's not rapport. People see through that stuff. Rapport occurs at a much deeper, much more intimate level with your tonality. Notice, I did this on purpose. Look at my tonality. Who noticed the shift? Raise your hand. Okay. When I wanted to bring a message in, I didn't keep going. I said, it plays at a much higher level. You'd be like, all right, I got it, Joy. It comes at a much higher. And you say, oh, well, now he really means it. And I lowered my voice, shifted my tonality, and I bring you in. Rapport is not about saying, oh, my God, the fish, I'm just like that. Rapport is when someone tells you, if you ask a question like, so what's your greatest headache with your current product? And you're like, yeah, yep, totally. That I care. I see, yep, I got it, know what you mean. Ever follow me? It's not this idea of being disingenuous. Now, sometimes we get lucky. We're in a prospect, and there's an obvious commonality. Of course, you want to mention that. But it's not about, oh, you fish, I fish. You skydiving, I love skydiving. Oh, yeah, me too. Oh, yeah, I jumped out of the plane with the guy from Red Bull and did the frickin' parachute from 8 miles. I mean, it's whatever. That's not rapport. That's what novices do. Bottom line. So these 4 seconds, that all important, show up as attack, enthusiastic as an expert in your field, bam, it has to happen quickly. And if it doesn't, you're done. They compartmentalize you in a very different way. Someone, forget about it, and they tune out. They don't perceive you right away in those first 4 seconds that you're number one, sharp as attack. Now notice here, this is a behavioral competency, to be sharp, on the ball. They don't perceive that instantly. They say, why should I listen to this person? And they just tune out. Next, that you're enthusiastic as hell. Remember, enthusiasm is another behavioral competency. They say, wow, what's this guy have to talk about? Why is it so good? It must be good if he's that enthusiastic. They can't help but want to listen more. And 3, which is authoritative, another competency, an expert in your field. Bam, when these 3 things are present right in those first few seconds, what they say is, maybe I should listen to this person. Maybe this is that person that could help me get what I want. Now, you say to yourself, well, Jordan, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, if someone thinks I'm really sharp on the ball, I'm an expert and, really enthusiastic, they'll say, yeah, of course, listen to this guy, right? But how could they possibly know that in 4 seconds flat? It can't be because of some magic words I say. You can't say, listen to me, I'm sharp, enthusiastic. You can't do that, right? It takes kind of a long time through words to get that sort of point across to somebody. So if it's not the words that establish that, guess what it is? It's your tonality. It's that ability that in that first pop out of the phone or in person or the way you dress when they lay eyes on you, that bam, something registers unconsciously that they just say to themselves, wow, this is a person worth listening to. Now, conversely, let's go the other way. Let's say you pick up the phone, you dial, you don't sound the right way, and you sound unenthusiastic, you sound like a dullard, and you don't sound like you're an expert, like a novice in your field. What do people do? They hang up the phone. Make sense? Remember, sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, an expert in your field. And now let's take that to some real pure science and behavioral competencies here in terms of this, communication. 9% words, 50% tonality, 40% body language, 41% body language. Here's the question. If you're on the phone talking to someone, can they see you? There's no body language, right? They can't see you. It's just your voice over the phone and the words you say. Can they see you? You're probably saying, well, no, there's no way they can see you. Answer is yes, they can. You see, whether or not they can actually see you in person, they will make a mental image of you based on how you sound and what you say. Either that mental image serves this higher purpose, which is that you are a person worth listening to, or a very bad place to be, which is this is someone I should really hang up on because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And that comes across, believe it or not, in 4 seconds on the phone. And in person, it's a quarter of a second. They've actually tested this out, our psychologists scientifically, where they hook you up to a functional magnetic resonance imaging technology, and they flash a picture in front of someone, and bam, the brain spikes up and down in a quarter of a second to the judgment center. And our brain judges based on what they see, whether it's good, bad, sharp, not sharp, and makes a decision accordingly. So if that's so important, that mental image is so important, those words are so crucial, what do you do? How do you get to that point, whether you're on the phone or in person, that no matter what happens, no matter how you're feeling inside, that you come off the right way, which is sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and an expert in your field? When you can get to that point, you've really begun to master the art of tonality.